All right, everyone. Thanks for joining again this afternoon for our study group. Today's topics, we did kind of cover some of these last week, so this might be a little bit of a review for dashboard options, custom report types, and then we will end today with workflow and process automations, the first piece of that topic. So with that, I think, Carla, you're our first presenter today.
I think so.
All right, so I will stop and you should be able to take over.
Oops, there we go. All right. You see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm going to be covering dashboard options. I know we did talk quite a bit about it last week. At least it was, you were demoed some stuff in an org, which is kind of nice. I just put a few slides together to talk about the pieces that were laid out in the study guide. So with that, I have to click on the screen. Okay. Just creating dashboards. You put in a name description and then you select a folder. And we talked about this last time too, that like reports, the folder determines the security, who can see it and run the dashboard. So you can select a folder to put the dashboard in. So that's how you create one. So once you're in it, there are dashboard settings. The settings button is like a little cog, and I'm going to hop into it and show you, but there's a cog wheel that you can click on to get into the dashboard settings. And this, again, gives you the name and the description if you need to change that, and the folder that your dashboard is located in. But then it also says view dashboard as, and then you can also pick the dashboard grid size. And when I took the exam, the lightning wasn't a thing. So lightning dashboards also wasn't a thing. So I don't know if they would ask something like, what's the recommended grid size for a dashboard if it's 12 or 9. But that's maybe something to just know. That's kind of why I wanted to say it. Sometimes if you just hear it, it might pop in your brain if you see that type of question on an exam. So
I remember there being the question of how many items you can have on the dashboard. Is that still a limitation?
Right.
I think it was 21 back then, but
right. But I don't think that applies to
it doesn't anymore. Okay.
Well, I just
don't know.
They might ask.
It does.
They do ask it. I've had it twice of the 3 times I took it.
Okay.
So the right answer is?
Yes, so yes, that. So the maximum is it a classic dashboard? The maximum is 21?
I thought
20.
20? Okay.
20. Oh, right, yes, 20. Yeah, so that is good to know. I think these options are the same though, the view dashboard as. You can run it as you, me, another person, and then when you click that, you choose the person. You can set it as the dashboard viewer, which I think is also known as a dynamic dashboard. And then you can let dashboard viewers choose who they view the dashboard as. So that
I noticed that too. Terminology has changed with the Lightning dashboards, and I'm kind of curious how it's going to show up on the exams, if it's the new language or the old.
Right. But I think dynamic dashboards was also the terminology with Classic as well, when the dashboard viewer, at least.
Yes.
I remember that when I was setting them up. Yeah. It just doesn't say dynamic dashboard in the settings, but that's what it's called, I think, in help documents and stuff.
Okay.
What I have for that. Let's see here. So dashboard components. I remember when I was studying for this exam, we had to memorize the dashboard components. Right now, they've got them down to 4 categories, so chart, gauge, metric, and table. But when I was taking the exam on the certification class that I went through, I memorized the classic components: the pie, donut, funnel, bar, vertical and horizontal bar, line, scatter, and then gauge, metric, table. I also have Visualforce page. I think you could do that in Classic as a dashboard component. You can have a Visualforce page as a dashboard component. So that was also something I had memorized. I have my notes back from when I took it in 2015, and that was something I had written down. So that's what I have for that. Anything to add, anybody, on the dashboard components?
So you think that you can put a visual force page on a Lightning dashboard?
No, not a Lightning.
Oh, okay. That's why I was confused for a second.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Classic.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Then I do agree with you. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. I didn't put that in the slide because I don't think it's pertinent to Lightning dashboard components, but it is what I learned back when I was studying, that you can do it in Classic. So.
Sure.
Yep.
I was gonna ask you if you had figured out how to do that to give me the secret, because I can use it.
Well, I'm sure there's a way programmatically to do that, but not out of the box.
Right.
Okay. So a data source was listed in the topics to cover for this section, and a data source is just a report. I don't know if I'm missing something or if I'm simplifying that way too much, but the data source behind dashboards are reports, and the reports that are behind each component. So when you add a component to a dashboard, you choose the data source, which is an underlying report in your org. And then the last piece I wanted to just touch on is scheduling and subscribing. So the difference, I think the terminology is different, but the meaning behind it's pretty much the same. In the Classic, you schedule dashboards, but in Lightning, you subscribe to dashboards. And I actually this morning subscribed to a dashboard, and this is what I got. This was the email that I got, which was kind of cool. I'd never really done it before, so I just wanted to show what it looked like when I received it in my email. These are all the components that are on the dashboard, and I'll show you in a minute what the dashboard looks like. But I thought that was kind of cool.
Hey, Carter, question.
Yeah.
Go back to your slide.
Yeah.
The difference between scheduling and subscribing, as an admin, are you able to schedule that or subscribe somebody else to a dashboard, or what?
Yeah. So in Lightning, you can. If I were to go to this and hit subscribe, I think I can add recipients.
Add recipients. Okay.
Yeah. I don't even know if I have users in this org, but you could.
Okay.
But in Classic, the schedule refresh is not a subscription, right? It's just when someone logs into
Right.
that, logs in and shows the dashboard, the data will be refreshed based on that schedule.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
I think in Classic, don't you have to log in as a user with your admin and then have them, you as them,
Oh, yeah.
subscribe? Kind of. I'm not sure because we're in Lightning and I haven't used Classic dashboards for a long time. But
I know, me either. I was trying to remember that as well, because it has been a really long time, probably since I worked at Holmes Murphy.
Oh.
I've done this. I don't remember. It's been a while.
Okay.
So, and right now too, I have a power users in my org right now that they do all of the reporting and dashboard stuff for other users. So we don't as admins here touch any of this stuff usually. So a little out of my wheelhouse.
Mine as well, which is why I asked the question. I don't know the answer either.
Yeah. So that's all I have for slides. If anybody else has any questions or wants to talk about anything else in regards to dashboards, I'm open to that.
I'm just more interested to know if, and I think maybe I even said this last time too, is just if they're going to allow for other types of components on dashboards, just to make my life easier for creating home pages.
Yeah, there is a disconnect between homepage dashboards and just regular dashboards. I didn't realize that when we were implementing Salesforce here at American Equity and creating those home pages. They are a little bit different than, I think there's limited options in a homepage dashboard than it is in a regular dashboard.
Well, I know we have users that are stuck on list views that you can see on a home page, but you can't put those inside of a dashboard. And you can create something that's sort of equivalent with the information, but then you can't have filters already pre-made, and it just becomes this confusion for them. If I try to say, oh, well, we have this other option, and then they don't, you know, they don't like the visual because it's presenting the information differently, and they don't have a, you know, I feel like there's some room for growth to make that all work better together.
Yeah, and maybe what you're talking about too is you need more custom app pages, maybe?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, that might be something that we have to look at.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's all I got. If anybody else has anything else.
That's good.
I was going to hop into here. I guess I forgot to do that, but there really isn't much to show, I guess, except for if I were to edit. And I actually grabbed this dashboard from the App Exchange Labs dashboard package that I talked about.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool.
So Carla, what would filters do there for you?
Filters, I think what they do is they filter the entire dashboard down. So if I wanted to have account name, maybe name.
So an example I've done before, and again, I'm not an expert on
Or type.
I've done it with like the user's name or territories, things like that as filters, and that and then it will adjust all of my data specifically for those items. But
and then doesn't
for
it just
some,
add
if
it
you
to
need
the
to
top?
enter all the values all the time, it's that. I mean, it should pull out the values that are existent, right, and let you filter on that then. But they probably do that on purpose because that's what you do in Einstein Analytics. They have these filters. So they probably limit you on options here to get to buy the other package.
Come on now, Salesforce wouldn't do that. That's good.
I do know that these filters, from reading that I was doing on filters a little while ago, and also just from seeing filters put applied correctly on these dashboards, if your information is split logically in a way that your users don't, it's just common knowledge for them as to what those split offs are. These filters can actually really save you a lot if you're, instead of having to create 5 different dashboards, you just allow them the ability to switch between those 5 options.
I've used them too when I've ran out of dynamic dashboards.
Yeah, right.
It may be a little bit of a hack depending on the number of users, but
is the limit for dynamic dashboards 5 or 10?
So at least it used to be.
I don't know what it's currently at, but I recently saw the error, so.
Good.
Cool.
Any other questions for Carla? All right, so Adam, you are up next.
Yes.
Custom report types.
All right, so we went ahead and we talked about reports and report types quite a bit last week, so this should be a fairly quick demo and presentation. So first I'm going to jump in and actually get into our report types. You can just go up under settings. And in the quick find, go ahead and type report types. And so from here, we can go ahead and select new custom report type. And then you can go ahead and select the primary object that we're going to use. So I'll do contacts. And then here's where you can put a report type label that displays when a person's creating an actual report. So I'm going to do contacts with opportunities with products. And then down here it fills in, I think this is for, yeah, APIs, managed packages, the API name. You can go ahead and add in a description. I'm not too creative when it comes to descriptions in our report types. I'll just put the same as the actual report type label, just to simplify it. But this would probably be a good spot, let people know what kind of information they can get from running reports. And then you can choose where you want it stored. So I'll just store it under opportunities. And then here is where you can choose to, when you save it and get it all created, it can go right in and be deployed, or you can just keep it as in development. So for right now, I'm just going to keep it as in development. And now here is where we're choosing additional objects to add onto our report type. So generally with standard report types, you'll see maybe 1 or 2 objects. Right here, we can add up to 4, as long as, and you can add them on as long as they have that parent-child object relationship with each other. So I did contacts with opportunities with products, so I'm going to go ahead and add in opportunities. And now you have the option, you can say, you know, in order for our contacts to show up on the report, they have to have at least 1 B record, which is they'd have to have at least 1 opportunity. Or you can choose to where your contacts may or may not have any opportunities. So depending upon what you choose here is going to affect a 3rd or 4th object. If you add that on, it's going to automatically default it. If we say, you know, A records may or may not have B records, then when we add products on here, we don't have that option to choose that they must have C records. It's automatically in there as they may or may not have any C records for products. So once you have this formatted how you need it, you can go ahead and click Save. And then this brings us over to where we can go ahead and edit our layout with our fields. So when you get in the screen, it automatically has gone ahead and just added every single field for each object that we have here. We can go ahead and just drag and drop fields that we don't need or want to have visible on the report type itself. And you can move through the different objects and drag and drop fields over. Now, another thing that you can do with custom report types is add additional fields that aren't available in your initial object you selected. And you can do that by adding fields related via lookup. I guess I don't have a good use case to actually show you, but again, I think as long as that parent-child object relationship is present, you can go ahead and go out to additional objects to get the information and add that back into your report type now. And then lastly is with custom report types, you have the ability to default what columns actually show up on the report when it's initially opened. If we can look at this example in this standard report type, when we open it right away, you end up with 20 separate columns, and sometimes that may be good, but personally, I know I like it kind of pared down a little bit so it's not as much information coming right at me. And that can be done, let's see here. If you see the fields with a check mark on it, those are the fields that will automatically already be in the outline when you begin your report. So you can double click and check that box, check by default, And then when you go to run this report, the fax number is going to automatically be there. Same thing, if you want to remove a default, you can just go in here, uncheck it, and select OK, and then it won't be in there.
So how are you selecting those? Was it a double?
Just double, right? Yeah, just a double click.
Double click. Okay, that's cool. I did not know that. So that's very cool.
And then, so once you have your layout tweaked to how you want it, you can go ahead and save it. And let's see here. Let me go back. So if we went out and tried to run a report right now on this, we're not going to be able to see it because I left it as in development. We can go back and I'm going to mark that as deployed. Click save. And then if we go out here to reports, I think I put it under opportunities. Yeah, here's our new report type that we have out there now. And then, yeah, here's that default fax number that we put on the outline. A couple things to remember when it comes to customer report types. When you create new fields on an object, you must manually add that field in the field layout to your customer report types. I don't know how many times that's happened to me when we get a new field and I go to run a report, but I haven't added it to the field layout, so I have to start completely over and go back in and make sure it's added. There's a max of 1,000 fields on your customer report type layout, and you can get an easy count of that when you go into your field layout. It'll give you a count. Let me see here. On your layout, it'll tell you up here at the top what your total fields in the layout are. So the maximum for that is 1,000. And if you hit that maximum, that's a lot to have to look through to build a report. Let's see here. This I thought was kind of interesting. If a customer report type deployment status changes from deployed to in development, if its primary object is a customer external object whose deployment, or wait. So, okay. So if a customer report type has a customer external object and that object's deployment status changes, it can cause your customer report type deployment status to change automatically as well. Let's see here. There's a you have a limit of 60 object references on a customer report type. So if you have, when you're building your report type, if you do the if you go up to 4 objects here, if you do 4 objects here, then through lookups you could look up information to an additional 56 objects, and then you hit your limit. I would say that's probably not suggestible to have a report type that's built like that. That seems pretty crazy to me. But that limit is there. And then once you're building the report type and you've selected your primary object and you select save, that's it. You can't go back and change the report type. You just have to would probably delete it and start over. But that's all I had. Any questions on anything?
I had more of a comment, which is one of the nice things about being able to go through the lookup fields to get information from other objects is that often I've had objects that don't relate correctly through a master-child relationship, and I've been able to create reports for executives, very specific reports for them. and by utilizing those. And also another thing too, I was going to say is you can create multiple sections. So if you do use other, like those lookup relationships to add more fields, I recommend, if you were to do that, to create another section labeled as that other object and put all of those fields in that object.
I would second that.
Sounds like a good recommendation. Very good.
What's the limit again to relate to other objects? 3 or 4?
When you're initially building the custom report, you have the ability, you can do 4 objects is the max.
4 on top of the one you choose, or altogether 4?
It's altogether 4.
Okay, thank you.
And then through lookups, you could theoretically do another 56.
Okay.
Very good. All right, Kevin Smith, are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be, Terry.
Awesome. I'm excited to see what you've got.
Oh, good. Hopefully not disappointed. No, I'm kidding. Let's go ahead here. Okay, so I have workflow and process automation.
And we do not see your screen. Oh, it's coming. Thank you.
There we go.
All right. So, we could have gone on for days on this, but this is one of those areas that I remember from when I've taken the test previously. So I'm going to kind of hit on the things that I saw, and then also some of the things that I've learned from the certification days webinars that I've attended as well. So, what is workflow? From the slide, workflow automates the following types of actions based on your org's processes. So tasks, email alerts, field updates, outbound messages. So it can assign a new task to a user, role, or record owner, send an email to one or more recipients that you specify, update the value of a field on records, or send a secure configurable API message, in XML format that is, to a designated listener. So workflow rules sets workflow actions into motion when criteria or certain criteria conditions are met. Actions can take place immediately, or you can actually have them on delay to be a specific date or time according to your triggers. I found this out here, and I've seen this multiple times. So you'll see the evaluation criteria, then it rolls to rule criteria, and then the actions, or if you have a time trigger, then actions from there. So, and I'll compare these to Process Builder a little bit later. The next slide here, evaluation criteria, this is what you want to remember. Evaluation criteria is determined which records the workflow rule will apply to, and depending on how you set the criteria, workflow rules are evaluated when the record is created and every time it's edited, created and any time it's edited to subsequently meet criteria. Every time I took the test, this was asked. So it would be good for you to memorize this portion because they will ask you, I guarantee you they will ask you a question revolving around it. So I can't remember the answer, but that's not what we're here for.
That sounds like a good multi-select one. Select 3 of the 5, and
Yeah, exactly. And which times I usually fail those. So next one is what is Process Builder? Okay, and the reason I didn't spend much time on workflow, by the way, they're not enhancing workflow anymore. They're not doing anything to make it better. They're making it. They're not shutting it down because a lot of legacy orgs obviously use it, but Process Builder is where they're rolling. So what is Process Builder? Well, Process Builder lets you automate business processes using a visual interface. Processes allow you to execute actions when certain conditions are met. You can add multiple groups of criteria and associate actions with each criterion. You can create immediate and scheduled actions. and you can you get to use versioning. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say most of us have used Process Builder at some point here. If not, I've just got done working on one for my job, and it was quite nice and quite frustrating at the same time. So take a look. Use cases for this. So if you want to send an email reminder to an account team if a high volume opportunity is still open, 10 days before the specified close date. If you want to update all the mailing addresses on all child contacts when the billing address is changed on an account. If you want to create records and notifications based on stages of an opportunity and schedule follow-up tasks that execute based on changes to the records. Or create an order record with the date in the opportunity and associated account when the opportunity stage changes to, in this case, closed in one. But you can obviously choose what type of stage you'd want that to fire on. Supported actions, and here's the big difference. As you can see, Workflow has 4. Process Builder has about double. So again, tasks, email alerts, field updates, outbound messages, which I touched on previously. With the Process Builder, though, you can create a record, and it's important that you remember that only Process Builder can create a record. I'm going to state again, create a record. That should be something you will see on the test because I saw it every time. Update records, send an email, post to Chatter. That is something that I also saw as well, the question regarding a process that could post to Chatter. Which one would you use? Use a quick action, submit for approval, launch a flow, or call Apex. That's the reason they obviously are pushing Process Builder, because it can do a whole lot more than what the Workflow can do. And I know I'm flying. Oh, go ahead.
There's a send notification now that's been added to that, I think, in the last release.
Oh.
Going to look. So I think they continue to add to this. I keep waiting for outbound messages to get moved over. Then I wouldn't have to deal with Workflow ever again.
When you say launch a flow, what kind of flow is that?
I've been told it's a headless flow. That makes sense. I'm not a heavy flow user, so I wouldn't know for sure. But headless flow.
That answer your question, or?
I probably have to read a little bit about flows. I don't know.
Yeah. Flow is another automation tool, and do you cover that as well here in your slides, or?
No, I don't cover it in my slides because it's more of an advanced admin.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know since you've taken the test that isn't a topic you have to be as familiar with. But Flows is just another automation tool that's really allows you to do automations that normally you'd have to have done with code. It's kind of a visual development process. So you can launch, like you said, a headless flow, which headless just means it doesn't have a screen.
Yeah, and the other thing to know is that like Process Builder and Workflows can't delete records, but Flows can delete records.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So that's something to keep in mind. Like you can use the Process Builder to evaluate, like if you need to delete a record, Process Builder can't actually do the deletion, but you can launch a flow to actually delete that record. And to just piggyback off what Terry said too, is that flows can have screens, so they're interactive. You can gather information from the user and use that information for decisions or creating records or doing all those sorts of things.
Yeah, there's a couple others that aren't on that list that I just looked at. Processes is one that you can do. Not familiar with what that is. Oh, it's an invocable process. So that would be.
That would be like invocable Apex, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And then Quip is on the list now too.
Oh wow!
I imagine that's some type of an update to. Oh yeah. Okay, so you can. Oh wow, that's interesting. You can create new Quip documents, copy documents, a whole variety of different things. You can chat on Quip. So that's all definitely enhanced. And then custom notifications, I mentioned that one earlier, and then sending a survey invite is also an option there. So yeah, so obviously they keep enhancing this section of the system quite a bit, so good stuff.
Absolutely. I only have one more slide, and it's in regards to the order of execution, which, again, this is something you'll want to memorize, because there are questions on there. It won't be, what is the order, and list it from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know. It's going to say, at what point, and I can't remember what it was, but I basically had to choose assignment rules was the answer to the one I had. I don't even remember what the question was. But so when a user attempts to save a record, rules and processes execute in this specific order: validation rules first, assignment rules second, auto response third, workflow fourth, processes fifth, and finally escalation. I said runs, but rules is what I meant. And I'll update that before I save the slide. And I went ahead and also Salesforce checks the order, this order of execution every 15 minutes. So it's constantly checking. That was one of the takeaways that they expressed on my last certification days webinar I did.
What do they mean by that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means either.
So they were saying that in the background, Salesforce automatically checks or checks these order of execution on any updates from what I remember. And I don't have the notes accessible right now. I'm sorry. But it
would have been related to the time delayed actions?
Oh, you know what? I bet you it was.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Because the rest of it's going to fire all in
immediately.
Yeah, with the same transaction if it's an immediate action.
I guarantee you're right, Terry.
Okay, that's good to know. I wasn't aware of that. My assumption was it ran fairly close to whenever you told it to, but that's good to know.
And then the one way that I was taught by Salesforce when I went to take their class was this little phrase here in bold to try to remember the order of execution here was: very awesome admins work proficiently every time.
Nice.
So that's how they related to me. There's other ones as well that I've heard, including alcoholic references. You know, some vodka and absinthe here and there. So either way, you're going to want to know this. Best way, you know, if you can remember this: very awesome admins works proficiently every time. That's great. I could only remember very awesome admins, and it helped me. So that's really what I have. That's what I found on my test when I've taken it.
That's good.
So, yeah.
Very good. And when are you planning to take the test again?
Well, my intentions are to go ahead and take the pre-test, the practice exam first, to just get that feeling, because it's been a while. I did all this probably in April.
Okay.
And so I needed to take a break because I was burnt out.
Yeah.
So we'll know soon, and depending on those scores, my developer is trying to have me do it before I go out to Dreamforce next week. So we'll see.
Okay. Yeah. If you do that, I'd do it at Dreamforce. It'll be cheaper for you.
There you go.
Yeah.
One way or another, we'll know hopefully by Friday where I'm sitting.
Very good. Very good. All right. Anything else? Other questions from anybody? All right. Hearing none, we're going to be done early today. So our next week's topics, we are going to try to squeeze 4 topics in next week so that we can have a full review day on the 11th. Louis, Jackie, Kevin, and Kevin, you're up again really quick. Sorry about that.
It's all good. I took one for the team this week.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So we're doing another piece on the
there we go.
process, which will be the approval processes. That's one I know that always creates a lot of confusion. Hard to understand some of that particular piece of the system. Salesforce Mobile, and then Lightning for Outlook, or your desktop and mobile pieces, and then App Exchange. All right, any questions from anybody today? Hearing none, I'm going to let you have an extra 15 minutes then. So have a great afternoon, everyone. And if reminder, we will not be meeting next week due to Dreamforce and Thanksgiving break the week after. If you're headed to Dreamforce, hopefully we'll see you all there. Have a great afternoon.
You too, Terry.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Terry. Bye.